Hi everyone, I'm Marie and we're coming to you live from Living Felt because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Oh, we missed you all. Thank you so much for being here near and far. We see you just all over the world and we're so grateful that we are back and that you're here with us. Today we are going to be needle felting Christmas ornaments. I brought a collection of ornaments that we've made in years past, and I know that many of you have your supplies all geared up and ready to go. For those of you who don't, I'm going to tell you super quick fast. It's in the description. We're just going to use some core wool, some of our signature MC1 batting in white and a few different colors, some chenille stems if you got them. Grab a skewer if you don't have that, and get a medium fine and coarse felting needles. That ought to get you started at least, and we're going to just have some fun and hang out. Usually the first Saturday after Thanksgiving, we have a big open house and we needle felt with all of our friends from the community, and it's nuts. We went on a big banquet, and this year we couldn't do it. So we're very glad to have this time with you and just so grateful that you're here. Hey, I want to say hi to a few folks. Thank you for all your lovely messages. Some of you have already given this video a thumbs up. Thank you for being here. Hi to Erica all the way in Holland, and Leola in Toronto, Heather in Maine, and Peg in Texas. I know Kevin is here in Texas also. Dory in Maryland, Jan in Missouri. Hi friends, thank you so much for being here. And Victoria in Missouri, Michelle in New York, Pauline in the UK, so many more of you. Thank you so much for being here. We just appreciate it. Now the fairies show and tells today, they are bringing ornaments that they have felted. So super, super fun. If you don't know, the fairies are our magical crew, and the first up is the most magical fairy, Hannah. Yay!
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? Fairy Hannah here to show you this little guy that I made a few years ago for the tree here at the shop. She's a little fairy. As you can see, she's needle felted with MC1, and her hair was done with a little bit of New Zealand Corriedale. And one of my favorite elements to her are going to be her little wings that I did here. Those were done with the Angelina film. Unfortunately, we don't carry it anymore, but it's still a really fun product if you can ever find any to get your hand on.
Oh,
so that
you're getting lots of love and
her
super,
little
super cute.
tutu that I attached with just a little bit of tulle and fiber. But yeah, she's my happy little fairy. And next up, I got Miss Fairy Holly for y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi everyone! So I have a little cup of hot cocoa that I made out of core wool as the base, and then I have a chenille stem as my little, what is that, handle?
You got there.
I got there. And then I use some CX2 on the top, and it's hard to tell, but there's a little bit of viscose to just kind of give it some texture, and then my little candy cane, because we like to drink a lot of hot chocolate at our house.
Oh, so cute.
So that's the little guy. And
that's
now
lots of love. You know what? World Market this year had hot cocoa felted ornaments, but this one is so much
mine's
better. Yeah, way better. The candy cane's
I
awesome.
haven't seen it, but I think I'm partial to mine. So now you get to see what Miss Fairy Ann has created.
Hey y'all, thank you so much for being here with us today. I have made, this will be a surprise to everybody, but I have made a needle felted cat ornament. It was modeled after my cat Jackson, who sat very angrily watching me the entire time. Here he is, little hat. Oh, I will move it over here so you can see it a little bit better. His eyes are a little bit mismatched, and I love that. Yeah, this guy will be hanging out on my tree this year.
Lots of love, lots of love.
Thank y'all so much. Next up is Fairy Kayla.
Yay!
Hey everybody, Fairy Kayla here. I just wanted to share an ornament with you that I made. I saw some ladies making some similar ornaments on Facebook, and I just couldn't resist. I had to give it a shot too. So it's little wet felted. I started with a wet felted sheet and then kind of cut out little shapes, and this one is just a little present. I used the wrapping, or the ribbon is just felt fabric, little ribbons that I had, and I actually glued a piece of chipboard on the back and covered it with felt fabric so it wouldn't be floppy or anything like that, and just use little embroidery floss around it. So yeah. And then I had a question for everybody. Did you guys hear about the kid who was afraid of Santa Claus?
What about the kid who was afraid of Santa Claus?
You could say he was claustrophobic.
Oh!
All right, I'll get out of here. I'll let you get back over here.
Can I just see a great big round of hearts for the fairies? This is our crew. They pack your orders, they answer your emails, they answer the phone, and they make absolutely everything that comes from our shop. All of it gets sprinkled with their magical happy fairy dust, and we're just so grateful for them. And yeah, that was fun. It's so great. The thing about ornaments is it's just so fun to see the different expressions that come out, even from the same project, but just to see the different creative ideas. So it's really fun for us that we have such a creative crew, and I'm glad y'all enjoy them too. I love seeing all the hearts. I brought in a few ornaments just to share with you. We're going to make a specific project today. I'll show you, hopefully have time to show you two different things you can make with the same basic idea. But let's just look at a few of the ornaments that we've made together over time. I have just a couple of them here. And so here, these are the oldest. There's another one like this. It's so funny if you find this video on YouTube. I might have hidden it by now, and it might be a fun project to redo. But these are just little felt ornaments. This one is a gift card holder, and I think I made this video in 2009, and it's so bad. Like, it's so grainy, so bad. But they're really, really fun, and these are just made with felt sheets. Really super fun. So that's ancient. We made these together a couple of years ago. This is a cookie cutter star, and I made it really thick. It's made with our vintage red and just a little sort of, I don't know, maybe a Nordic style decoration. And this little gingerbread house is just as simple. We actually just cut this basic shape. So some fun things you can do with a gingerbread house. You could just go all different manner of ways, really cute colors and gumdrops and stuff. This guy is from last year, this little mouse, and that is on our YouTube channel. We have a Christmas holiday playlist so that you can see how to make him. And this was a project from last year also, which we used mason jar lids. We recycled old Christmas cards to cover the back, and it just took a very little amount of wool. Well, this is our mason jar ornament, and that is a kit also. From last year, our ice skater ornament, based on one of my favorite vintage ornaments. The fun thing I love about her is you can change up your fabrics for her skirt and her little goodie bag, whatever that is, and also the glittery skates. So this is a kit, and it comes with the little glittery bits, and she's really cute when she spins on the lights in your tree. So that is on our playlist and also a kit. And then this owl, actually, barn owl, we made this earlier this year. And you can make your owl a little more plump and, you know, stout and fat. I wanted mine a little more long. But these are all just really fun, super basic ornaments that you can make. And it seemed like a fun day to come back and let's make some more felted stuff for our tree. What does everyone think, Anne?
Oh my goodness. Mandy says the barn owl is my favorite, and Angel says these are also such great memories.
Oh, right there. And thank y'all for sharing them with us. That's really fun. So today, actually, we're going to make a polar bear, and I mean, it's going to be a very simple project. But if we have time, I want to show you how to just take that same project and make it into a dog if you'd rather have a little dog instead of a polar bear. So that's what we're going to do. And I brought, for those of you who don't know, I brought our MC1 batting. It's our signature fiber. We pretty much can't get it anywhere else. I know that friends across the pond are often asking us whether we have a distributor over there in the UK or the European Union, and we don't. We only sell the fiber here. But that is the fiber we're going to be working with along with our core wool. And I gave you measurements in the description of what to bring, and also suggested that you bring a few other things, and that would be a few chenille stems, and I'm going to show you a few options for working with these and ideas. You don't have to use them at all, but I'm going to show you how I suggest using them in this project. And then also a little wooden skewer. It's just like a shish kebab skewer, but it is very, very thin. I'm also working on our Earth Harmony needle felting foam. It looks like a lot of the dark foams that you see, but it holds up really, really well. And I'm also bringing in a little wool felt sheet for when we get to our very tiny parts, or if your foam is at all dirty and you want to keep your white pristine, then you could bring in a little felt sheet and just use it to capture some of the colored fibers so your foam doesn't get dirty. So those are just some things to consider. Cool? All right, I'm going to put this aside for now. We're going to start with our core wool, and I mentioned that you could use less than ½ an ounce. But actually, I'm going to start with the chenille stems. Are we okay? Oh, sorry, do I have stuff in the way? Okay. All right, so what I have here is a little armature for the body. So again, this is going to be a polar bear or a dog, but we're actually not going to needle felt over this entire little armature. I'm suggesting that you might make an armature to give you scale and to give you a suggestion of the size of the pieces that you want to make, so you can think about how big you want your ornament to be. When we make a shape over this chenille stem, the wool is usually mostly in the middle, depending on how you apply the wool. So I'm going to show you just real fast how you can make a super simple little model that out of a couple of chenille stems to get this size. And again, it's just a little reference, like if you want to kind of repeat the sizes of things or to get an idea of making a little guy. And you can needle felt over it too. I have some I'll show you. But for me, it's not as fun to needle felt over a chenille stem that is this tiny. This is an example. It's just not as fun. And it doesn't even, for me, it doesn't even go as fast as doing it without a chenille stem. But we'll still look at a few different ways you can use the chenille stem besides just making a little model. So if you want to make a little model, start with 2 chenille stems and basically find the middle. The quick way to do that is to just peek both, fold them in half, join the ends, fold them in half, and now at least you know where your middle is. We're going to twist that middle together, put your fingers right in the middle, and we're just going to make the little spine or back portion of our critter, and I'm just going to twist it a couple. Now I suggested that you bring a ruler. So we're just going to need a little tiny ruler. My little guy, I think it measures just about, 1.5 inches is the length of that back, just 1.5 inches. And so this one too, I want it to be about 1.5 inches. You can also use your fingers and say, that's about 3 fingers width. It's not super critical, but it might help you just repeat your sizes. Okay, and then what we're going to do with each leg is bend them. You want enough room for a little bit of a bend and the foot. So the bend is going to be about this long, and I'll tell you what that is. I want to say that is 2.5 inches. Yeah, it's just about 2.25 inches long. And that might be too long for your guy. You might decide you want him thinner. Just bend it all the way back up and twist it around until you come back over the spine. And again, if you want, you can needle felt over these, but I don't find it very fun when it's this tiny. I have to really want that armature in there. Since they're not going to be on their feet, you know, it's not really designed to stand. It doesn't matter all that much which you choose. But depending on the wool you have, you might even be able to get it a little more firm if you don't put the armature in there. It really depends, because this is kind of bendy. When you double it, it gets strong. Okay, so now we have our 2 back legs, if you will, and we're going to do the same with these 2 legs here. And they're about the same length, so we'll just do this real fast. I'm going to bend those just a pinch smaller. So this is just a little sample for you, and then I'm going to give him a little head, a little chenille stem for his head, which is the purpose of having the 3rd. If you have just a few chenille stems, you might want to watch the whole tutorial and then decide how you use them, like if you don't want to allocate them to a little model. And we're going to bend the feet up. Just give them a little pinch so that they bend up. Now, you can add a wire. If you're doing a dog, you can add a wire for the tail or the head. In this case, I'm just going to do one for the head. If I do a tail wire, I do it a little differently. I'm going to wrap it before we put it on the critter. So we'll wait for that, and I'm just going to show you how to make this little head base. And again, having a model is just kind of helpful to help you see where you want your sizing and help you sort of follow scale as you make things. Give this just a couple of twists. That's about 3 twists. And then, that's all we did. And then I'm just gonna put it right here. It depends on how long you want the neck. A polar bear is gonna have a little longer neck than the particular dog I'm making, but it might depend on the type of dog you're making. We're just making a little Santa dog. It's a really unique breed. And I'm gonna pause here for a second. And we're gonna jump to getting our body done. But here's our little, it's just a little tiny model for you and super quick to make. And then you have a little reference piece for size. You can decide whether you like that size. Again, keeping in mind that the wool is going to surround all of these pieces, and it can be tight or it can be bulky, meaning it could be very thin and narrow, or you can really mass the wool on there and make it thick. Okay, any questions before we jump from this?
Yes, Susie asks, how many pipe cleaners total would be needed for this project?
This particular one, if you're just making the polar bear, if you're just making the model, this is it. You can use these 3. That's it. So if you want to use them on the inside of your body, like this one, well then you'll need those 3 or 2.5 for each one. If you're doing a dog with a tail, you might use that other half. Okay. But this we're just going to use as a model for now, although I will show you another way you can sort of work that into the armature if you want. We're going to make a body out of core wool. This is our CW1 core wool. This happened to come off some batting. We also sell it in roving. And what we want to do is make a really dense body that's kind of like a little egg shape. So the first thing I want is just to get this to a nice, thin, controllable strip. And this isn't very long, actually. It's maybe 12 inches long is this piece. And when we create these bodies, we want them to be very firm. So one of the best things to do is to get your wool to a small, controllable amount where you can really make it tight as you create it. I'm just going to fold this in half. This is going to be about another 2.5 inches. And I put my skewer right on top of it. I'm going to fold the wool over with my thumb, and I'm going to roll very tightly. Just once you get the first roll in, you're going to hold your tension here with your non-dominant hand, and your dominant hand is going to be doing the twisting. So what you want is to wrap very tightly and hold tension the entire time you wrap so that it's not bulky or loose. If Mary Berry on the Great British Bake Off says no soggy bottoms, I'm going to say no gassy felts. We don't want them to be airy and baggy. We want to control our shapes by adding stuff, not by leaving air in. So this length is fine. You always want to make your shapes, ultimately they're going to be bigger than the final compressed piece because you've got to needle felt the air out and get all those fibers next to each other. So notice I haven't let go tension. It's rolled very tightly. It's very dense. And before I let go, I'm going to put it down on my foam and get that extra bit over. We are going to use our coarse needle at this stage. It's my 36 triangle. You could work with a 32 if you want. It's even more coarse, but you can't use it very long, honestly. This project will go pretty quick anyway. So now I am needle felting on the skewer, but notice that I'm not going straight in. I'm going at an angle. I'm working on the ends just yet. I am just needle felting all the way around, and I want to use the skewer as like a spine to work towards. And don't stay in one spot for too long. You want to work all the way around your piece and flip it over as well so that you're coming at it from both angles, because wherever you push that needle, it's going to shrink. It's going to compact. And we really want to get this very nice and compact evenly all around the shape. The skewer is just assisting me, and it keeps me, you hear that I'm not hitting the foam. You don't hear this. You just hear. We're going into the wool. There's no reason to go all the way through. And sometimes when you roll a piece by itself and you don't start with like a spine, it's easy just to go all the way through and you're not creating a very dense piece. You could also use a chenille stem in here and instead of the skewer, but in this case we won't have any wire to hit, any wire to have to avoid either on this little piece. So I'm getting it pretty dense. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but you do want it to be even. Don't worry about needle marks in this under part. What we're going to do is push it off the skewer. Now you might hear me say this a few times. If your skewer has any snags on it, throw that one away and get another one, because one, it's going to grab onto your wool and it may not let you push the wool around on the skewer, but two, there's a chance that you're going to snag it on your skin and it's just not worth it. If you hit your needle a few times with your felting needle, that may happen. Just toss them aside and don't risk it either breaking or hurting you when you use it, because these, you know, it can be kind of sharp. Okay, so now we've got the butt of this, or the end of this, and now I'm just going to tack that down a little bit, and we want to start to shape this into what will be our body. And the body doesn't have to be very large, but it's going to be a couple of inches big. And mostly we want it firm, fairly firm. It doesn't have to be rock hard because you need to needle felt other parts onto it. So I'm going to push this all the way off. This is our little piece, and just go around and shape it so that it's kind of oblong, and it can be tapered, like it can be more narrow at one end and a little bigger on the other end. Once you have your piece, you're going to needle felt your piece. Keep using your firm felting needle, your coarse felting needle, for a little while at this point, because you really want to shape and compact all of that wool. You don't want it loose. Let me see what part I brought parts. Okay, so here's a piece that I've been working for a little while, and notice that the end is tapered and this end is a little more round. It's a pretty good shape. This is going to be the shape that I use for my polar bear. So go for this, and I know some of you are already probably asking the measurements. It is just a 2 1/4 inch long. And width, the widest part is about 1 inch. The widest part is about 1 inch. So hopefully that helps you see the shape. About 2 1/4 inches long. That's mine. Maybe a little over 2. It's closer to 2 1/2 inches long and 1 inch wide. Now, and that's just a guide. You know, your polar bear can be as big as you want or as little as you want. That's just a guide. Once you have your shape, and it's fairly firm, but it's not rock hard. So like I'm squishing it and it's not misshaping, because we're going to want to mount our legs and our head and our neck onto it, but we're going to be compressing this more as we add fiber to it. Now we want to cover it with our outside color. Outside color is optional. So we are making a polar bear. I brought the 3 different colors so you can see. Now this is our core wool, hopefully, and I know it's kind of hard to see on camera. We might come in a little bit closer. This is our cotton white, so you can see the difference between core wool and cotton white. And then this right here is our CX2 winter white. I think that shows up pretty well on the camera. You can see how different those are. This is a natural color. This is a natural color, and this is a highly processed white. It is also a different fiber. So the core wool is kind of yellowish. Sometimes you might get the core wool from us and it's closer to cotton white. It's more that this might be a better harvest than this. you know, that not better harvest than last time. So a better harvest, bringing it closer to this color. Our cotton white is pretty consistent white, which is a real natural white, often called ecru in our field. And this is a highly processed fiber. It's coarse, it's wiry. You'll see it's more wiry and it takes a little more to tame, excuse me, the fuzzies than our MC1 batting. But if you're going for really, really white, and I use that on my polar bear, the CX2 is the fiber. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover. That's what we're going to use on our polar bear is the CX2 Winter White. And all we need when we put a coverage on something like this is a thin little layer. So whatever size of the batting you have, this is from a 2-ounce bat. This is what a 1/2 ounce package looks like, and this is absolutely enough for this project. Is just getting, you're not even going to use all of it at all. Maybe you won't even use half of it. But this is a 1/2 ounce package, and this is a 2-ounce bat. What we want to do is just peel a thin layer. So what's fun, our MC1 is the same way. It's in a real nice batting, and you can just peel its thickness. And then I fold it before I tear it and then pull. So we're just going to get a little thin piece. And here we're going to actually take just a little piece like this. A little piece like that. That's all it's going to take to cover this little body, even less actually. And you want it to be smooth, meaning like no lumps and bumps. You need that to be a nice, smooth little sample that you pull off. And then we're just going to roll our body in it until it wraps all the way around and overlaps. Get your overlap in place, and you're still going to have, once you start needle felting, a little more than you need. Notice it's sticking off the ends a little bit. That's perfect. I would rather have a little bit off the ends than not enough. So get your overlap in place and then just tear this off, just like that. Hold it, and now I'm going to use the cluster of 42 triangle needles, just one of my favorite tools, and go back and start right where I laid it on the body there. And tack it down. I treat this like shelf paper, meaning you start at one side and you move all the way around the piece. Just getting out all of the air as you go, real methodically. Some of you who are brand new, maybe brand new to using batting or brand new to using our MC1 batting. This is CX2. It's been super processed, and still you might find little bits of vegetable matter. You really only need to worry about it on the final surface layer. Don't fuss with picking vegetable matter out of every layer unless maybe you're on a face and you don't want to, run into that as you're trying to do your details. But vegetable matter is a normal sheepy thing. Sheepy do sheepy things, and some fibers they go through a carbonization process where that vegetable matter is burned out with chemicals, but we do not subject our MC1 batting to that. So you're likely to get a little bit more vegetable matter, but it's been washed, washed and scoured and cleaned and sometimes dyed and air dried, and it's really just like often hay. It's usually just hay or grass or whatever. Okay, so what you're going to do is work your way all the way around this piece. We're going to jump ahead so we can get to the whole parts, and just get this all tacked down so it's nice and even. And when you get to the ends here where it's sticking over, what you want to do is just pull off, if you've got bits on there that is just way too much, put your hand so that you're kind of covering the end of the piece, and then just pull off the extra bits, and that will be enough. It will be enough, and then you're just going to coax it all the way around and needle felt this whole covering so that it's flat. Okay, just needle felt this so it's flat. Now remember I mentioned that this stuff is kind of unwieldy and it's a little more wiry, but still go after it. Hit it multiple, with a multi-needle tool like this or something else. If you use the Clover Clacky tool, this is a great place to use it, the 8900. It's a great place to use that tool, and you're going to needle felt over the whole thing, and then don't be shy to go over it, with your 42 triangle and really just tack everything down. Here is one that I have. Oh, this is my dog body. It isn't allied. Okay, this is my, my dog body has cotton white on it, so I'll put these two side by side. We're gonna jump to doing the legs and such. So this is what a finished body might look like, and this is my dog body, so it's cotton white, and this one is the CX2 white. It might not be easy to see the difference on camera, but I think you probably can. Yeah. CX2 and cotton white. So you want this piece to kind of look like this, no lumps and bumps. You don't have to smooth down every last bit because you're going to be putting stuff on. You might put on spots. We're going to put on a head. We're going to put on legs and a tail. But you definitely want to get everything laying down so that it can't be roughed up as you run your hands across it. So this is about the size of a body, and it's just like it's almost like a little bullet, you know, because I end up like the dog body. This is going to be the chest. This is going to be the chest, and on the polar bear, I do it just the opposite, so that the tail is a little more blunt and the front of the body is a little more round. I'm going to put those guys aside, and let's look at how we do legs. But before we jump to the legs, how's everyone doing?
Oh my goodness, we are loving this project. Cherie says, yay, polar bears. And Marina says, I'm so glad to be making these, and that she actually got to see polar bears in person on a trip to Hudson Bay.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I would like to see them close, not too close. Up close, not too close. One thing I like about this project is it takes me back to one of my very first projects, which was needle felting a bear. It wasn't really one of my first projects, but it was one of the first projects that I taught. And we basically made bear parts and then put them all together. Now he's a string jointed bear. That was the first product we ever made. And this guy won't be string jointed, but still, we just are making bear parts and dog parts right now. So again, I'm going back to, for this, I'll show you how to make one leg, and we'll go ahead and use the CX2. We're not going to use the core wool. When you get to these little tiny parts, and like this is an example of a leg, when you get this tiny, it's using the core wool over the piece is just really difficult to not end up poking whatever's the under fiber, the core wool, back out through. It's just so challenging. So go ahead on your feet and your legs, use the fiber that's going to be on the outside of your critter, whatever that is. Again, we're going with about the same thickness, meaning, look, about 3 fingers. That's how I measure stuff. 3 fingers, a little bit longer than my hand. That's enough. We're only going to do about 3-4 rolls. You might go even thinner. So here we go. We go back on our chenille stem, on our skewer, fold your fiber over, get this real nice and tight, get your first fold in place, and then I'm already uneven. See here at the end, you really want this to be even so that one side isn't too thin and one side real thick. You want it fairly blunt. Fold it over and get a couple of rolls in there. So we're just going to go like 1, hold it really, really tight now, really tight, 2, 3, maybe 4, not too thick, 3, maybe 4 really tight rolls, because then you're going to pull off the balance, grab hold of that whole thing, pull it off as close as you can, and then wrap that around. Now, if you're afraid that you just can't let go of it, just put it down onto your foam right away. And you can use, I'm going to use my fine needle all the way on this part. You could use your 4D triangle if you want, but needle felt at a very shallow angle and get all of this to grip down. So don't let go of your tension, because getting all that air out is a lot harder than keeping it out in the first place. Shallow angle, notice how we're going. All we're doing at this moment is tacking down these fibers so that they hold. With this, if you were using the MC1, you could practically just spin your hands around it instead of putting it down and needle felting it right away, because it grips itself so well. But the CX2 is a little more slick, and it's not going to grab quite as readily as the MC1 or the core wool. Okay, here we go. We got that holding down now, and we're just going to get all of the rest of this laying down. I really like needle felting on the skewer. It gives me something to control my piece with.
Linda says, I love seeing how you're using the skewer. This is so helpful.
Oh, good. Yeah, the skewer has been in my toolbox since I started. The person who I learned from used a skewer, and it's never left me. I've always found it very, very, very valuable. Okay, we tack this. Notice the angles are very shallow. Remember to spin this around. And for those of you, especially who are new or people who are wondering about the angle, keep in mind that if we only go this way, one, we're going to hit that skewer and risk breaking or bending our needle over and over. But two, we're not only compacting the wool this way, it's going to get its strength by us compacting it from both directions. And we can do that. We start by doing it from the outside, or we're just bringing all that wool in. That's going to make it more strong. But we're also going to do it from the ends. So here, like I'm going to say this is going to be the top of my leg, the part that attaches to the body, and that's going to be the foot. That's generally the way I go. So if we push this down now, we can just go right into this top, parallel basically with the skewer, and compact the inside. But notice that I'm not touching the outside. Let's come in just to see that just a little bit. I'm going to bring you just a little bit closer. I hope this doesn't make anybody seasick being that close. Okay, so here we're going to go right into that middle and compact that middle part down. But we're going to leave the outside here a little bit loose for attaching to the body. Down here on this part, we're going to push this all the way off the skewer so that we can start forming our foot. So the first thing I do is just round out. We don't want to flatten it so much. Well, you could. I mean, you could make this look really realistic. Very little of what I do is realistic. Most of it's just kind of playful and whimsical. But we just kind of want to roll this around and compact this fiber so that you can shape it more into a foot. Now I have some red here on my foam, and my little leg has picked it up. So again, remember the felt sheet can protect your parts from picking up fibers. So we start to shape that foot, and we want to compact all this down. If you feel like you're not making the progress that you want with this tool, consider a needle that's just a little more coarse, because now we're trying to get some real compaction here. And you can kind of bend the foot on the skewer and start to shape it right there. So with that bend, we're going to felt right into the bend right there, and then into the sides as well. And shape your foot before you ever get it off your skewer. Your foot, your paw, whatever.
Well, this Woolly Wednesday has just gotten a name. It has been christened by our lovely felting friends, Project Polar Bear.
Project Polar Bear.
Project Polar
I love
Bear.
it. Now, I'm going to encourage you to keep this on your skewer until you're pretty happy, with your firmness and your density, because it's just a little bit easier. Get your shape really well. Then you're going to push it off. And remember to leave this part loose for attaching to the body, but you want to get this leg really done before you put it on the body. So spend the time. You have to do this when you have patience. Maybe you're watching a favorite show, or listening to a favorite show, so you don't poke yourself too much, because they are small parts. You have to pay attention. And in the back of the foot, the back of the leg here, I don't know what it's called, but I like to just put a little bend in there. So just squish that leg to be the shape that you want, and keep needle felting it until it feels more firm, more dense, and is kind of the shape that you want. If this part's just too long, if you can't tear it off, you could cut it off, honestly, if your leg's just too big. But keep working your legs until you have some little shapes, and I'm going to show you. I will show you how to put them on the body. Oh, let's see here. So here's my my little feet. They may not all be the exact same size. Put the two smallest ones up front and the two biggest ones in the back. No one's going to criticize you for your Christmas ornament. And these things are about the size of my little sample, knowing that the legs are kind of going to go up onto the body. Now, if you want, you can make your little legs just on the chenille stem and then attach those. And I'm not going to make the whole thing, but what I'll show you is what I would do is kind of like we did with the other other parts is wrap the wool on here, and then you would leave the chenille stem sticking off just until you attach it on the body. So we'll do that. Let me do it for the dog's tail, and I'll say it just would be very similar to the foot. So for the dog's tail, and I had an idea. Now I don't know if I should do it. Where's my... I'm going to do this for the dog's tail. So what I want to do is just give myself a partial crook. And if we have a video on YouTube under our needle felting called like needle felting firm, maybe needle felting with armature or needle felting firm pieces with armature, something like that. And we really show you more on this wrapping. But I like to kind of hook my wool, as you saw. I just folded it over. I hooked my wool into this chenille stem. And I use it exactly like the skewer. Push this wool around and then wrap just like this. And this core wool just grabs onto itself, unlike the CX2 doesn't quite. So once I get to a point, then I'm going to switch hands and twist this way. So as long as you want your tail to be, and you just want to go back over it and make it even. So I don't know how long I want my tail to be. I'm going to start right there. So if you wanted a foot to attach on, you could do just the same sort of thing, but you're going to have to be patient. And I just use my core wool, which actually probably wouldn't be the right color for my tail. You have to be patient and then go and, fiddly needle felt all of this down. If anyone has taken my free online doll needle felting class, you already know the pains of wrapping little tiny things, and because we make 10 individual fingers, although we use a little bit of assistance, but it's difficult to do this without poking through to the other side. So if you can, felt it any by your hands, it really depends on the fiber that you have. But our MC1 and our CX2, our MC1 and our CW1 core wool can really, kind of be dry felted almost by hand. So that's something to consider for your feet or your tail or whatever like that. Okay, let's jump to attaching these to our body. This is my dog body, and as I mentioned, this blunt part is going to be the chest on my dog body, and I'm going to attach the legs to the back. The thing about this process is you can always cover up whatever you do, and we're actually just going to needle felt these right on. If you're not sure about the placement of your legs and such, use a long doll needle or something like that and start to make, you can sort of attach them like this and build yourself a little model and see how you like it. What's the placement? How are you happy with that? So I already know this is where I want them, but I just want to show you this is a really great way to sort of faux up a little piece and decide how you want it. And good, that would be good for string jointing too. But we're going to bring in our coarse needles now because we want something to really push this wool through, and I'm going to put these legs almost all the way to the back of the butt, because that's kind of how it is, and poke it. Now watch your fingers on the other side. Watch your fingers on the other side. Watch your fingers on the other side. That's why you want to use your foam. You don't want to put your hands up there. This can be kind of ugly right here. It's okay if it is, because you can cover this up. If yours is really too thick and it's not going to work, you can also cut that other underneath side so that it's not so blunt. But usually we've not felted the top very much, this very top portion, and there's still got some room on it. So I'm going to put this other foot on the back, and we're going to go around the whole little beast like this. And in a minute I'm going to have to jump back to polar bear.
Do you have a trick for keeping the ratio of the legs to body proportionate?
No, I am the least accurate person for anything natural, and I am. I live in like a fantasy world. I like things with pointy ears and pointy noses. So for me, there's very few rules. But what you can do, if you're trying to do something that's a little more realistic, is look up the measurements of the animal online and then divide by whatever is the percentage that you're doing as far as scale. So if the body is normally 2 feet long and you're doing 2 inches long, we'll see if you can just kind of do the math and figure out how long would it be on your little guy. I know like with horses and stuff, there's a real natural to do like a 16th model or, you know, something like that. So it's just not something that I'm very familiar with. But these are pretty cute, and we're just going to put our little leggies on. And what we can do with all these joins, once you get the little critter built, is you can cover all your joins with just a little more wool, and it'll look more natural.
Sharon asks, would this method of making the legs and attaching them this way work for larger sculptures?
Only so much. It really depends on whether you need them to stand. If you need them to stand, you know, really, it may not be the best way. You could, but you're going to need to make these legs really, really firm. So, you know, plenty of people make dolls and stuff without any armature at all, but you need to make them very firm. What you risk is that if these are, the join, or if these are too long, that the legs kind of want to splay out. Even if you put wire in there, sometimes they want to break away. So you're going to have to get a really good secure attachment to the body, and the legs are going to have stability on their own. So like this guy is just honestly haphazardly, quickly put together. He's so little, but I'm pretty sure that he's gonna stand already. So we'll go. We just kind of go across the table. So see how Bowser's already kind of standing up, which is fine, and he's meant to hang anyway. But what we can do, let me find my cotton in here, is we can cover up these little joins, and we're going to be putting his head on him anyway, and ears and stuff. But what you can do is just take a little tiny thin piece and just patch this right over your spots. And I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick, and then we're going to jump back to polar bear.
A few folks want to or at the joined late want to confirm, are we using chenille stems at all as a base?
I'm not in this one. You can use it for my dog's tail, and you can use it for the feet, as I shown. Like you could do a foot the same way we made these feet over the skewer and took them off. You could make the feet over this, but I find that it doesn't really matter. I just find that it's a little bit easier and faster to make them this way than to do them over the chenille stems, because you're trying to avoid the chenille stem all the time. The easiest thing to do is to not use it. So you don't have to use the chenille stems. You can. I wanted to show you all these options. You could go this route. You could make the feet only and the tail only, like we did these, but not take it off the chenille stem. So like that, and attach them on just like we did. You just need to cut the chenille stem shorter, and you could also use this, for the tail, like that on our dog. That's what I would do. Or you could just make little models. So I wanted to show you through, but then we're also going to show how you could use it in their hat, because these are ornaments. They have to have a hat. So can't be without a hat. Now for these little joins here, I'm just going to show you with this fiber, the MC1 fiber, you can easily just make like a little patch and cover up what you did there so that it won't show. So that's a time for your fine needles. And it will cover up all manner of things. Now, I was visiting with someone on the phone yesterday. Oh, I'm reaching for your name because I know you're on here. And we visited by phone, and she was needle felting something and said that she didn't know what needles she had. She bought them from somewhere else, and her piece was getting hard, like really firm, but she just kept showing holes and making holes. And she was using our MC1 batting, but she had some other whatever needles, and she didn't know what they were. And she wondered, she's making a snowman, did she have to start all the way over? And I said, no, what you can do is just patch over. You get the whole thing in MC1. It's getting really firm because the needle is too coarse and you're not getting this smooth finish like you want. So she was waiting for more fiber, her needles to arrive. So all you need to do is just put this little layer. Now look how smooth that looks compared to this. This one looks rough. You can see the join, and all we're doing is putting over a top layer. So I wish I had a little I wish Anne was over here needle felting with me so she could keep working on Doggy. Because I want to jump and at least finish one one little critter. But this is how we do the patches. Just make sure that you have your adhesions really good first, and that they're going to hold up for you before you put this on. Otherwise, you have to over needle felt this. You know what I mean? And you're going to want to take your coarse needles back to it. So just be really happy with those joints before you switch. Before you cover up those joints. I hope I'm being clear. Okay, cool. All right, so that's an example of a patched side that still needs lots of love. In my world, it needs to be gone over and over and over so that it's really nice and smooth. Let's look at Polar Bear body. Now Polar Bear already has his head on, so here's Polar Bear and his body. I left him not covered here so that you could see that I attached the legs the same way. CX2, white legs, same little body, and his little head is just a slightly different shape than we're gonna make our dog. The head, it just seems to be a little more pointy on these polar bear guys. And again, these guys are just meant to hang. They're not supposed to stand, but they will if you make those little legs nice and firm, and if you make them the same length, which close enough. Close enough. Okay, so let's make our heads, and we make our heads the same way. Okay, I have our heads here. We make our heads the same way as we do the body, which is, you're just kind of going for a general shape. And a dog head can be lots of different shapes. I just have sort of a little smashed face head that I'm going for, and I'll show you. We're just making a little egg shape for the polar bear body. Polar bear head, sorry. So this is our polar bear head right here. You can see that's kind of the shape. It's just a little pointy egg. And this is my dog head, which might seem a little weird, but it's going to be on his body like this. So his is going to be kind of on the end of the body, and his little snout is kind of pushed up. That's going to be his little snout. And his eyes will be here. We'll get those on there. And polar bear is on the same way. So the polar bear goes here, and we just wrap the neck so they get a little bit longer of a neck. So this should be pretty easy. You're just going to do it like the body and shape it. I know someone's going to ask me for measurements.
Already done.
Okay. I made my head about 1.5 inches long. You can go a little bit smaller and add. You can always add. Better to, make it a little bit smaller and add. 2 ways to make this. You can just roll the egg, just like this, and make it pointy. Or you can make a ball, a little round ball, and then just put a little cone on the top. We're going to make a cone for our hat right now, so you'll see how to do that. But it's just like we made the body. You're just going to roll that tiny shape. With this one, I kind of roll the cylinder shape, if you will. I'll show you in the big. You kind of roll the cylinder shape, and then I leave one end a little loose and start sculpting it. So I start sculpting it so that it's going up like this, and that's the only difference. So we made this cylinder together, and it's like a big version of the head. And then I just start sculpting it, like literally push the wool where you want, and it's almost like a Goofy's head.
Yes.
Goofy's head is kind of long and rounded, and his snout is turned up. And now I know where have I seen this shape before? kind of like Goofy. So just start with a cylinder if you want to do something similar, and just turn it around. And then we're going to finish this little face and muzzle. So this is just how I made that little dog face. And then you go straight into the end, not with your coarsest needle. I would use my medium or 38 spiral or 38 star, and then just go right into the muzzle. This one you can kind of see how rough it is, so put your patch over there. This thing has been covered in cotton white after being sculpted, but you can see that they're basically like the same shape, just one mini and what they're like a little bean.
Yes.
A little bean with a turned up snout. That's it. But dog heads can be lots of shapes. This just happens to be mine. To attach it onto the body, again, consider your needles, your doll needles, where you want that to be. And you might kind of get it to, turned how you want. Your head can be sitting way up here. Mine's going to be a little more on the front of the dog like that. And if you're not sure, or if you just want a little helper, that's what the doll needle is really great for, is kind of getting it on your getting it on your critter and letting it hold it for you while you do your work. So we'll get our cotton. Here's another, just a little strip of cotton. I'm going to make it nice and narrow, and we're going to just make a neck. Now, the first thing you want to do is needle felt through the head onto the body so that it gets attached. Use your really coarse needles for that, and go. Now, the neck is going to expand it up, but just for the moment. Now, some people will build the neck right on. This dog is kind of a no neck. He's kind of a no neck dog, but I want his head turned up. Actually, I'm going to move it a little bit. I want it right about there. He's kind of a no neck dog and a big head. Your dog might have more neck. Bear with me. Fiddly stuff. That's pretty good. That's where I want it. You can go through and just attach a little bit right there. Get that stuff anchored in. But again, the neck is going to give us some distance. And it's okay to start thin. And we're going to just attach these parts right here.
Mandy asks, should you make your body a little bit under felted so it's easier to attach the head?
Only that part. You can do only that part, or you can make make a little bit of a head extension and attach it on, but don't leave this whole thing under felted, because you need it to be firm when you attach the legs and stuff. So you can leave part of it loose. I would tend to leave the head part a little bit loose. Now remember, I said the body can be firm but not rock hard because you want to attach other parts, and this is one of those parts. So you're going to fill in. Notice how that neck, even though you attached it on there, how that neck kind of fills in as you wrap this around, and then we'll taper it in. That's about thick enough for me, for my little dog, and then we can taper this to cover it up. Just like I did on the polar bear, you can always put one little final layer. So what you have here is as long of a neck as you want on your critter, and then you start attaching that neck to both parts.
Oh, Joan says, thank you so much for making ornaments today. I needed to make some for Christmas gifts this year.
It's pretty fun. There's so many different ones you can make. So what you're going to do with your critter is keep working on that little neck until you get it to be the shape that you want. And just like we did with the legs, is you're going to go back and you can just patch any parts that you don't want. Now, truth be told, you could do all of this in core wool and then put your final colors over, but that's very difficult on the legs. It's very difficult to then wrap those little appendages and get them just how you want them. So if you're going to do that, just don't do it on the legs. You can do it on these other parts, but we want to get our little neck and get it all mashed down. Now my guy's going to get a scarf, so both of these guys are going to get a scarf, so I'm not too worried about what's under there, because the scarf will be needle felted on, and that's really up to you whether he has a scarf or whatever, like a hat. But you can see it's really starting to take the shape of, I think it's suggested of a dog. It doesn't look like a moose or a bear. It's doggish. It's kind of doggish. And we'll go under here. Now he's going to be rough and ready. We won't have time to finish him 100% today. But let's show how we add some of our final parts. And he really does. He needs a little patch, and he needs this little tail. So like for his tail, where did that thing go? I lost it. I'll find it. I'll find my tail. Okay, so for my little dog, my dog and my polar bear, they both need to be cleaned up. So, but you can see the dog patch works pretty well. Over this side, we'll do the same thing on the head. And for this little guy, he's going to have his eyes. I like to do this. I brought something to show you, like with your eyes, if you're not sure where your eyes go or where you want them to go, if you have some of these little glass head pins, you can just put them in place and decide. Now watch yourself, because they're going to come all the way through the back, but you can just kind of decide where you want your little eyes to be on your dog. And I want my eyes to kind of sit right in here. I'm not doing beaded eyes or anything fussy like that. I just want to do little wool eyes. Same with my polar bear, little wool eyes, little tiny bits. All I ever do is take a blob that's going to be small, 2 little blobs, and do our pokey circle dots. Poke and twirl, poke and twirl.
Oh, Deborah said she's going to use the techniques that she learned today to make sheep ornaments.
Oh, sheep are pretty cute. We have a little sheep too. It was funny, we never made him into an ornament. We have a little sheepy kit. And it shows you how to make little sheep curls when you don't have locks. We make little sheep curls for him. I'm gonna give him a little snout. I can't now. I'm all kids can't wait to get him home and get him fixed up because he's so rough and ready. Oh, and I do have ears for him too, so I guess we're gonna have to jump to that. So right on the end of the snout, I just put a big blob of wool down just like that, and then I'm gonna trace out that nose. The nose is generally like a triangle, right? Like an upside down triangle. So you can kind of pat the wool in that direction, and then if you kind of get it going in that direction, then you take all the stuff that's over and you fold it down back towards the middle, and that will give you those nice clean lines. So by sort of tracing out the triangle in the blob at first and then folding everything back in towards the middle, that'll give you that shape. And you can always, make a draft like this and then go over it more if you want. You could also embroider the nose, but only if you have really needle felted that muzzle nice and firm. So embroidery, like we do that in our first bear kit, we show you how to embroider the nose if you want. And what I would do is come up what would be like through the mouth here. So those of you who have felt it with me for a while, you know that I'll go back and like just refine all of this and really clean it up. To make the little mouth line, you can just take a little tiny pinch and roll it into a bit of a line and anchor it right underneath the nose there. You can just bury it in. It can be a little sloppy, meaning you just put it in and just needle felt it right into the middle and then bring it down like that. If you can needle felt it down and just make it as long as you want, and you can either cut off the balance, or sometimes if it's very short you can just bury it right into the piece. I'm just going to needle felt it all the way in, just like that.
Kevin asks, if you're using glass beads for the eyes, should you add them in first before adding any other details?
It doesn't matter, but if you're going to do beads for the eyes, needle felt that head very firm and don't let the eyes sit on top of the face. It's the one thing that is the most common mistake, is letting the eyes like sit on top of the face rather than burying them in so they look a little more natural. Okay, so real quick, let's just look at ears, and I'm just going to show you really fast. I know we're over time already. I brought in ears. I made them in advance. These are my dog ears. They're going to be kind of like flyaway ears. And I have polar bear ears. I swear I do. I can't believe I can't find them. They clung to something. Oh, here they are. They're super tiny. These are my polar bear ears. They're dinky. The polar bear ears are dinky and the dog ears are big. And you can probably figure out how to do this, but real quick, we just start with like a little thin strip, at least twice as long. Let me move this up here, as what you need. Make them at least twice as long as what you need. You're going to folding the end. That's going to give you a little bit cleaner of a strip to work with. This is for the dog ears, which are big. The bear ears will be a very tiny version of this. Needle felt it so it's kind of flat, and then you strip it all the way off, and then I fold it over. Now I'm going to fold it over and shape my ears from here. Tack this down, and you're going to need to just keep folding and keep sculpting and keep shaping until it's what you want. Keep shaping them. Notice these are just what you do is you get them nice and flat and compact. You're going to peel them off this felt a couple of times, but leave this part loose. And if you really want them shaped, you can start to shape them and cup them like this. And these little polar bear ears are just kind of the same. They're super tiny, and I've just folded them over and they're very dinky like that. So that's the quick rough and ready on the ears. So like for my dog, I want his ears to kind of fly out a little like this. And I know that I don't need all of this bulk. So then I pull it off, but I only kind of wait until I know how much do I need, and we'll attach it right on his head here. His ears are gonna fly out a little bit like that. How's everyone doing?
We are doing great. Judy says, overtime is okay. I could listen to your voice for hours. A few folks are even jamming to some Christmas tunes.
Nice, that's nice. Yeah, how many of you have already listened to Michael Bublé's Christmas album 3 times this year? I want to know. Are you out there? I'm going to have his ears just kind of go like this. And so I'm going to attach him right here to the back of the head. I just want his ears to be a little bit forward and not hanging down so much. So again, I'm using my my fine felting needles because this is all loose and I don't want to leave a bunch of big needle marks.
Oh, Pam says she's going to be busy tonight felting these.
So there's his ear. Now, continue shaping his ears. This is about as quick as I could do a draft for you. Otherwise, if you really felt with me, we would be here for hours because I'm very slow. I just don't really felt fast. I was telling Anne, the whole evening can go by and I've not finished what I plan to finish because I stop and start so many times. So get your ears in place, and then I'm going to give this guy a hat. Polar bear too. Polar bear's ears are very simple to put on just because they're so small. The one thing I want to tell you when you're working on these really tiny parts, especially like the polar bear ears, one thing that I've learned is it's easy to have too little fiber. And that, you want to make something little, but if you have too little fiber to double over on itself and wrap in, there's nothing for it to cling onto, and it's just always going to stay under felted. So you want to have enough wool on there to actually felt it into something. If it feels like you just can't get any mass, then try increasing the amount of wool that you're using on those tiniest parts. So there he is. His ears are just kind of kind of like that. And I want him to have a little hat on his head, but I wanted him to have a hat that's kind of laying down. I feel bad putting it on him when he's so underdone, but polar bear, let's do polar bear real fast. So his ears, I'm just going to kind of put off over to the side like that. Same as dog. He needs more refinement, but you can just go straight in to the ears like that and attach him to the back of the head.
Terry McLaughlin says yes, definitely to the Michael Bublé.
I always feel bad when I have a project that I can't finish 100% with you guys, but let's just call it today's just a felt and hang. So hopefully you guys will forgive that we're not leaving with the most perfectly finished. Everyone will have to share their finished ones, and I'll share mine in the group too. For those of you who don't know, this is where we hang out all week, is in our group, Living Felt Friends. That's where we share our stuff and lots of amazing projects. I promise if you go there that you are going to be inspired by all the things that people make. Okay, so I'm going to give our guys this again. They're just in draft mode. They're super fuzzy. They need to be tamed down. And what we're going to do is give them some hats. So I have 2 ways to show you how to make the hats. And I have them both started here, one on the end of a chenille stem and one on a skewer. And oh look, they're backwards. So this one is going to get pushed off and I've shaped it just like we've done everything else that we've done on the skewer. I think we've made these on skewers in the past. I know we've made other stuff on skewers. The only tip is really we are going to, let me move this stuff out of the way for a second. The only tip really is when we start this, you're going to usually put a little more pressure on this one side. Get this really, really tight here. And you need to build up some mass, but one of the ways, like I build a cone, is I really just start tapering that wool further down. And you can also just tear off, like right here where you don't want any more bulk, you can tear that off so that this gets a little bit bigger, and then go back and add the bulk, add more bulk onto here. So I am going to needle felt this. I do needle felt this on the skewer a bit, but oh, look how the MC1 just grabs onto itself, and you can kind of dry felt it with your hands just like that. It's really nice to work with. So that's how I start the hat, and I did needle felt this right on the skewer so that it has some mass and density. And this one the same way, just the opposite, just like we've done everything else on the chenille stamps. And what this will do is give you a little more of a posable hat, so you can give it a little bit of a shape. So for this one, why don't we just add on a little fluffy cotton ball tip before I cut that wire, just so I have something to work with. So just have a little tiny ball of the CX2, and I'm going to give him a big fluffy ball on the top of his hat. So this will be kind of like, well, anything that you attach where you have the wire in it. What I like to do then is sort of push this piece up and out as much as I can. I want to push that piece up so that I cut the wire just a little bit short. So push it up so that it's kind of squashed, and then cut the wire, because you don't want too much wire in there. There we go. So now that wire is kind of buried in there automatically, and you can even just bend it a little out of the way, and this part is a little bit loose. We'll take this guy, and he will go on my polar bear, and I can pose that hat once it's on his head whatever way I want, because I put the wire in there, and then we would just needle felt it right to his head. Again, use your medium to coarse needles, and you might have to go around and trim up, cover up those big needle marks, but you really want to secure that well to his head. You want these things to hold up over the years, you know. You want to be able to take them in and out, or especially if you're gifting them, that they hold up over the years when you put them away. I always store my Christmas ornaments in airtight containers, but I also wrap them in tissue paper, because you just want them to be nice and clean and not get dusty. And but I always wrap each one up and put them away, and but they will really hold up over the years. So like, he's pretty cute, even kind of, he's undone and doesn't have all of his body or all of his stuff, but he at least looks like the essence of a polar bear, and he needs a little tiny nub of a tail, I know, so give him a tail. I'll have to finish him. Okay, but let's look at Doggy's hat. And what's different about Doggy's hat was I want his hat to kind of lay down on his head and be a little more of a beanie. And so I think in this case I'm going to start with this part of the hat, and I'm going to just finish up that tip so that it's nicely done. We'll look at, right at the end, we'll look at just a couple of tips on hanging your ornaments or stringing your ornaments. I know that question always comes up. So and he can have a little tip also, but I'm going to have his like laying on his head. So this is going to look weird for a second, but what I want is his hat to kind of lay down maybe a little bit. And so this part I want to fluff out, because he's going to have like a beanie on, and you can put the beanie on first, and then I want this to kind of lay down. So I'm just trying to see where his hat's going to go, because I want it to lay down. So I'm going to put a little red on his head. Just make a little fluff.
Oh, Tricia says, we learned how to make 2 animals in 45 minutes today. This has been awesome.
That's so sweet. Okay, he's going to have like a little cap on. And then I'm just going to make it round once it's on there.
Oh, Mitchell's going to make a couple for Secret Santa gifts.
Oh, that's such a good idea. You know, ornaments are such a great gift, because then when the person pulls it out every year, they're going to remember. At least I do. Like, don't you remember where you got every ornament? Mm-hmm. Yeah, every ornament. Every ornament, I know where I got it. So it's really a fun thing. It's really a sweet thing to do. Great, great gifts. And handmade anything is just awesome. Okay, so this is the quick rough and ready. It's just kind of like a little beanie. I might even give him a white trim, especially since he's cotton white instead of the CX2 bright white. And then I'm just going to blend that cap in. So we've given him a little base. I'm just going to blend this cap into the rest of that. But I do want it to kind of I want his hat to kind of lay down a little bit like that. So using my hands to put it where I want it and to get the bends where I want. And now I'm going to blend that into the rest of the cap that we already put on his head. He needs a green collar. That's what I'll have to do. Right?
Yes.
Needs a green collar. Okay, is anybody on the show wearing a Christmas sweater right now? I want to know if anybody is wearing a Christmas sweater right now. Your name is going to go into the hat. For those of you who don't know, we give away prizes at the end of the show. So Anne has been furiously writing down names over there while I'm needle felting. She's writing down names for our drawings at the end. We always give away drawings, give away prize drawings at the end. And I kind of like him. I think he needs a little work. He's kind of rough and ready. He needs a little work, and that's what I'll be doing tonight. But let's look real quick at some different ways, or just what you might consider when you want to hang your ornaments. So these are my drafts. A couple of quickie. My dog, I think he needs spots or something. He definitely needs a tail, which I lost his tail. It's somewhere on the table here. I'm gonna give him a chenille stem tail and maybe some spots, but he needs a green collar, that's for sure. Or maybe a little pack where he's carrying the letters for Santa. And my little polar bear needs more white on his body, but these are the basic shapes. We've looked at 2 different style of heads, a couple of different ears, 2 different ways to do the hats, a couple of different ways to do the legs. And just lastly, let me show you, Anne's laughing over there, I don't know why. Ice Skater is just mounted through the hat with embroidery floss. That's one way to do your hanging. If you can, the piece needs to be firm enough. She actually has a chenille stem in her hat, so it's posable too. And then we just ram the needle right through. If you're not able to do that, you might be able to use an awl and push a hole. This is another mounting way that we showed, and what we did is we stitched a thread through our owl, and I think it came under the wings on this one. We went through the wings. We have a long thread here, and then we attached our ribbon to that thread, and you can always reattach it. It was inspired by how many ornaments I have that have a little metal ring mounted into a ceramic, piece, and so I thought we could do that with thread. And coarser thread, something like this, is really hard to pull through. So in this case, we did use an awl, and we made a very solid little hole. But your piece has to be pretty firm to not just mush all out. So needle felt your piece is really nice and firm. These just sewn through. This little guy is just sewn through the silver thread, that's just felt. And this one, we actually mounted him under the hat. It was like, there was kind of no way to get it on there that was really easy because of where his hat was and how we wanted him to hang. So it's actually underneath his hat, and his hat holds the string in place. And I think that's all. This is the same. We used an awl and made a real good hole. And then this one is glued, it wraps around and is glued underneath. So those are just some ideas for how you might finish your little ornaments. And I know I have to finish mine. I'm sorry we couldn't finish them 100% today, but I hope it gives you some inspiration. Again, we worked with our CW1 core wool, MC1 cotton white, and also MC1 in true red I chose today. I brought in other colors we didn't end up using, and we used our CX2 winter white. Oh, I had one more ornament I didn't share. Needle felt balls, or make dryer balls and put any little design on them you want. So those are just freehand. So many fun ornaments to make. So, is anyone wearing a Christmas sweater?
So many folks. It makes my heart so happy.
You're wearing Christmas sweaters? I almost wore mine today. Okay, next week I will definitely wear something garish just for you.
Yes.
Okay, just a couple of quick things if y'all need while you're shopping. If you're shopping, I don't know if I put up that link, so all the supplies are on our site. We do have some quick grabs in our Notion section. This really nice red satin ribbon. It's 3/8 inch ribbon. We also have this little jute twine, which is cute for hanging. And we even had some jingle bells, which I didn't get to use today. I was going to use it on my dog tail, but I guess I'll just have to do that all by my own self. Thank you guys for playing with us today. What do you got, Anne?
Can we, for final thing, so many folks want to see the Christmas tree at the back.
Do you want to do that project too, by the way? Because I made this with the intention of sharing it. A lox tree is so fun. So he's really wild and woolly. This is just a lox tree. Now, Kayla here in our shop, she has become the fairy dyer. So she's been trained to dye our locks, and she and I worked together this year we really wanted to come up with just a nice, we're still trying to name the color, Christmas tree forest, or what is it?
Enchanted pine?
Enchanted pine. Oh, I like that. So this would be a fun project to do. We don't have the locks up on the site yet because, yeah, we just needed to kind of build up mass for them. But do you guys want to make this together? Yeah?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this next week. I know y'all are going to be looking for the locks, so here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go to the website and wait for them to show up. I did use, I think, a tree this size, 2 ounces of locks. It takes a lot. What we do with our locks is we like to mix up the breeds at time, and we like to put a few dye batches together so you get this really fun variation. You can make a smaller tree. You can make one half the size, and I just sort of mounted mine on one of our little wood stands. And yeah, it's so easy. We're just gonna have to be talking. So bring your hot cocoa and your popcorn, because it's a bunch of repeat actions to make a lox tree. Not that hard, I tell you, for sure. So we'll do that together then next week. That'll be fun. But in the meantime, we've got prizes to give away, right, Anne?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned, Anne's been writing down your names, and thank you for doing that, Anne.
Absolutely.
Oh, so tell us about our prize.
Our glorious, gorgeous prize today is
standing.
Oh, yeah. It's the MC1 Winter Goodie.
Mm-hmm. Lots of fun colors in here. Yeah, definitely our style of winter, huh? I love it.
Yes.
Red and green and berries and brown and monochrome colors and blues and more greens too. So lots of fun here. And this is the actual size of fiber you'll get. So lots of room to have lots of fun with that. Okay. Oh, look, it's 23 days till Christmas.
Oh,
that's our countdown. We're counting down. Okay, you ready?
I
am
ready. All right.
I like how she closes her eyes.
It's important.
I got one. You got one?
I got one.
Okay. Who you got?
I have Joyce Bordas.
Joyce Bordas, and I have Angel Hewitt. Congratulations, gals, and thank you everyone for playing with us today. Hey, listen, if your question didn't get answered or your name didn't get called after the live show, down below, leave us a comment and tell us what was your favorite takeaway, or tell us what you were going to make, or, I don't know, tell us what Christmas album you like to listen to while you're needle felting your ornaments, and you'll be entered to win a prize next week. So come back next week. We'll go ahead and make the lox tree. We'll get the locks on the website by then, and until then, you can shop with us here on Living Felt, and you can join us on Facebook. And hey, if you make your dog or if you make your polar bear, share it online, share it on Instagram.